right, welcome back to Just Boxing Live. We are live here at Sweet Science Boxing Gym in Hawthorne, California. As always, I'm your host, Sean Fitzgerald. The round-by-round odds for Tyson Fury to win by 7th round stoppage was 40-1, but somebody forgot to inform the Gypsy King because that is exactly what happened. And here to help me break that down, on the phone, returning from Las Vegas as he was at the fight last night, my partner in crime, as always, Anthony Stacks Saldana. What's up, Stacks?
Man, what's going on? Good to be on the air with you guys. Yeah, last night in Vegas, the MGM was absolutely electric. There was a great crowd there. It broke records as far as the gate goes and the money that was made last night. We had everybody from Magic Johnson to Leonardo DiCaprio to different people sitting in the crowd waiting for this Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder rematch. It was a highly anticipated rematch, and it was a great fight. I had predicted that Fury would actually get the win. Yeah, here we go.
I was wondering how far into the show we would get before you went on to the I predicted the Fury knockout. We made it a whole, if you count the intro, about 3 minutes.
60 seconds. Yeah. No, but, you know, the thing is he both great. I mean, he did what he had to do. He went in and he used his footwork. He used his feints. He had Deontay Wilder fighting off of his back foot the entire fight. In the third round, he caught him with a very hard overhand right that seemed to hit him in the back of the ear. Once he caught Fury in the back of the head, once Fury caught Wilder in the back of the head, in between the third and the fourth round, Wilder began to bleed profusely, and I'm sure you guys watched it on TV. I couldn't tell what was going on.
Yeah, I can elaborate a little bit more on that because those of us here saw it on TV.
Twitter.
Yeah, you must have an audience there, man. You jumped right into it and just started giving the breakdown and the analysis of the fight.
Game recap.
Let me get to the guys who are at the table with me here. People want to know who they're looking at.
Go ahead, guys.
My goodness. All right. Sitting across me, returning after about 1 year, right? This is basically our 1 year anniversary.
That's right.
Welcome back to Mr. Active Body Recovery.
That is
you got to put that Mr. on it.
Mr.
Eddie Rosario, what's up, man?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you for having me once again. The 1 year anniversary. About JoJo here. Remember we talked about the world title?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, 1 year
later.
You
went on to win the world title.
That's right.
He just picked up that world title a few weeks ago.
That's right. The new IBF world champion, man. So shout out to JoJo and his whole team and his whole camp. So I'm excited.
And you did watch the fight?
Oh, yeah.
Of course you did.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't even have to ask that. I don't know why I asked that.
Mm-mm.
Of course, and to his left, we have Stacks' long-lost cousin.
Yo, what
We got Jacob Saldana in the house. What's happening, brother?
Not much, man.
That's my son, bro.
That's your son?
Literally? Dad? There you are.
Breaking news. Breaking news.
Gonna have to do
what's up?
Gonna have to do a cheek swab on the way out here.
I know,
get to the bottom of this.
23 and me.
Yeah.
23.
Don't you can't say stuff like that in front of Cynthia. She must not be around you, bro.
Yeah.
No, that's my son's actual name is Jacob. That's why I said my son.
Yeah.
That is wild.
Coincidence.
It's
Wild.
meant to be.
Coincidence. Welcome, guys. So, yeah, like I said, we are going to break it down a little bit here because, and I'm sure if you're watching this, then I assume that you saw the fight. Shout out to Tommy Rush Jr. from the Standing 8 podcast who's on the chat. Tommy Rush, of course, I think you were Bomb Squad in there, so you probably have a lot to say on this topic. I'm going to have to tune in for you. And shout out to world champion Paul Behnke, former WBC world champion who joined us on the chat.
Nice.
Paul, I love you, man. Much love and support. Stacks, share it out, man. Make sure you get it out there in the world.
I'm sharing it now, but I'm muting it, so...
Yeah, mute it so I don't... Yeah. Every time we have Stacks call in on the phone, I get my own voice in the background going on. So shout out to Paul Behnke. Shout out to Tommy Rush Jr. Y'all, we are here with Eddie Rosario, Jacob Saldana. Anthony Saldana is calling in as he's returning from Las Vegas today, and we're going to be talking about the main event this weekend and, of course, everything that Eddie and Jacob have got going on. So let's get to that main event before we start. So, obviously, Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder. There were two things that I said in preparation for this that would surprise me, and one was Deontay Wilder winning by decision. The other was Tyson Fury with an emphatic knockout performance. But that's exactly what he did, and I will say that I was pleasantly surprised. It made for a very entertaining fight and stylistically very different than the first one. that these two combatants face. So, Stax, you were talking about bleeding from the ear. There was certainly bleeding from the ear around round 4 or so that was evident on TV, but they didn't comment on it until about maybe round 6 or 7, 2 rounds later. But it looked like he never got his legs back under him. Is that the impression that you got?
No. He looked completely off balance the whole fight. You know, after that first knockdown, I shouldn't say the whole fight, but after that first knockdown, he just seemed like his legs weren't under him. And for people that have seen Deontay Wilder up close, Deontay Wilder's looked like he's missed a few leg days at the gym. You know, and
took the words right out of my mouth.
A few leg days at the gym?
He's missed a few leg days at the gym, man. He's all upper body. So once he got cracked, you know, behind that ear, you can tell he lost his balance. You know, and his balance wasn't with him. Now, I don't know if that has to do with anything with his eardrum. I know after the fight they had say that his eardrum wasn't busted, that it was just a cut in there that had to be stitched up. But, you know, going back and watching the replay of that fight, that blood was just pouring out of his ear.
It was
didn't
pouring
look
out
like
of his ear.
that was caused by a cut. You know, and for people that know or people that have ever had a busted eardrum, it really messes up with your equilibrium. And that could have been a cause of him being off balance. But, you know, Tyson, he stuck to his plan. I mean, he outboxed him. He came in 30 pounds heavier than his last fight. He came in at 273. And when you got somebody that's that big, that's 6'9", 273 pounds, that's just, you know, they hurt you, and then they're just leaning on you and they're putting their weight on you, that has to be exhausting.
Oh, yeah.
And not just putting his weight, but, you know, actually boxing at the same time, you know, hitting during the breaks, holding his neck down, putting his weight on him, stepping back, and then just knocking the shit out of him. I mean, he dog walked Wilder.
Yeah, let me say, a couple things real quick. Shout out to Nancy Rodriguez of the WBC who joined the chat, and Gregory Puente. Gregory, we want to hear about the comeback, man. We may have to get you on, Gregory Puente, coming back to boxing in his 50s.
Oh, damn.
So looking forward to it. So, Jacob, let me ask you something. So you saw the highlights for the fight, which is very different because, you know, when we go and we watch the fight, we have the full context of everything. Based off of the elements that you saw, what do you think the story of the fight was as you were watching the highlights?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, looked drunk. You know, looked like he had no legs beneath him.
Wilder, of course. Right?
Yeah. And it's just it had nothing to offer from that point. You know, so balance or whatever it was, not hitting the legs. You know, not recovering well. Like he just could not hold his own at all, and just looked wobbly the entire time through the highlights at least.
Yeah. And of course, in the post-fight interview, it's funny that we mentioned the legs because every fighter, they kind of go through this thing where they say no excuses, and then that's followed by a list of excuses for why they lost that fight.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So this was kind of atypical, but essentially he said no excuses, but I hurt my leg real bad in training, you know, and and my leg wasn't really there.
Yeah.
Although I would say that generally speaking, a lot of people talked about in the lead up to this, the past fight, and they said, hey, look at how Luis Ortiz was able to just stack up rounds against Deontay Wilder. Luis Ortiz won 6 rounds in a row before Wilder finally landed that equalizer, right, before he hit that. The thing that's different is this was not like losing 6 rounds to Luis Ortiz where he's kind of on the end of a jab, getting outboxed, taking a shot here and there. It was a basic ass whooping. You know what I mean? Like he was getting beat up for 6 rounds, and there's a big difference between coasting for 6 rounds and landing a right hand and getting beat up for 6 rounds. And at the end of that, I actually commented, Stax, I think in round 6, you had made a post that said it was all Fury, and I said mercy because I didn't want to see it anymore.
Right.
Like I was looking at it like I don't want to see it anymore. He's like, I understand he's got a very powerful right hand. I understand that he has the potential to land that right hand at any time. Man. But the one thing that I said leading into this fight is the real strategy against Deontay Wilder, when you're facing a man who's that dangerous, and he's as dangerous as, you know, as long as he's standing in front of you. Right. For as long as he's there, he's dangerous. The real strategy is just get him out of there. Don't make yourself have to wait all 12 rounds. Go in there and put him out. That way you don't have to worry about that danger, right? I felt Tyson Fury did that. I know some people were critical of the stoppage. There was even some conflict within his corner who made some really interesting comments after the fight about how they run their corner, which is not, I think, typical for what you see for a professional fighter. But generally speaking, I didn't really want to see more of that. Eddie, did you think that needed to continue?
No, I mean, my wife and I were watching the fight, and after the 4th round, my wife's like, he's done after the 5th. Like, they need to stop because it's not fun anymore. You're talking about someone's life. He has kids, he has a wife, he has a life after boxing, and the way he was getting massacred, it didn't look like he was going to be able to have that life after, and, just to comment on, body types and, people have to understand, man, like, Deontay came in at 212.5 when he fought Tyson Fury.
Yeah.
And you put on another 20 pounds.
First time, you mean.
The first time. The first fight, he came at 212, and he came here at 231. Yeah, his legs are not going to hold him up. His body's not used to that, And me personally, I mean, yeah, he's a heavyweight, but I really, truly think he needs to go to cruiserweight because he's not going to get past Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury came in at 273, and there's no telling how much he weighed when he got to that ring. You're adding another 10, 15 pounds of rehydration. That's a big man hitting you. And they say it wasn't the eardrum, I think that's BS. He busted his eardrum because that thing was bleeding profusely.
So when you say
exactly.
Oh, real quick, Stax, I have a question for you on this that I'm going to lead into, which is that you mentioned you think he should go and maybe not fight at this weight class. Obviously, there's a lot of ideas about how he should advance in his career at this point, considering that Tyson Fury is going to be in the picture for at least another few fights.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So as we talk about that, one of the things that we have to consider is that there is a rematch clause in the contract. He has 30 days to exercise that clause, which is to say within 30 days he needs to notify Top Rank that he wants to rematch immediately Tyson Fury. Stax, if you are Shelly Finkel, if you are Deontay Wilder's management, do you advise him to take that fight or not? And what is your reasoning behind it?
No, I don't. He lost all 7 rounds last night. In the first fight, in my opinion, he lost 10 of those 12 rounds.
I second that.
Okay, so in the first fight, he lost 10 of those 12 rounds in that first fight. In the second fight, he lost 7 complete rounds. Right, so you're looking at a total of 19 rounds where he's only beat Tyson Fury in 2 of those rounds. And I wouldn't say they were lucky punches because I don't believe in lucky punches. He trains his ass off.
Yeah, there's no lucky punch.
That's a right hand.
No.
But I do believe that it was Fury's mistake that he got caught. It was more Fury's mistake of getting caught than it was of Wilder actually putting Fury on his ass.
Yeah.
Fury found he has a game plan now, and it showed last night. And he boxed beautifully, and he ended Wilder's night. And it was going to come sooner than later.
Yeah.
He was on the attack. He was hitting him. He was hurting him. In the 5th round, he knocked him down with this sweeping right hand to the body.
Yep.
That put him on his ass. So, no, I would advise him to stay away from somebody like Tyson Fury. That style doesn't fit him. And
sure.
There's fights that can be made out there. You have Andy Reese that's with PBC.
Yep.
You have...
Oh, I think that we lost Stax, but that's really interesting, and I'm sure he can call back in here. But one of the things that I think is interesting about that is there's kind of 2 counterpoints to this. There's the economics of boxing or the business,
right,
and then what's right for your fighter in terms of recovery, right? So he sustained a lot of injuries. If you look at what's happening in that fight, he was bleeding from his eye. He was bleeding from his ear. He was swelling around his jaw. The doorbell was Stax, by the way. What's up, Stax?
Man, sorry about that, man. We had to drop the call out here. But no, like I was saying, he lost the majority of those rounds. 95% of the rounds. So there's no reason to go back and fight Fury. There's other fights to be made within PBC. And, it's just funny how time changes. You go back 4 months and PBC had every single heavyweight title. Now they have 0.
That's right.
Well,
Top Rank is making a bid for this thing, man. Bob Arum got it right.
That's interesting.
I think Bob Arum's seen this. He's seen this coming. So now he's actually pushing for Pulev. That Pulev mandatory. But I don't think he cares whether Pulev wins or not, because a big fight, to be made now is you have the 2 giants from the UK. You have Anthony Joshua and you have now Tyson Fury, both from the UK. And I was talking to some people last night from the UK, and they were just saying they're not for sure if the fight's going to happen there in the UK if it does, because of the soccer league and Wembley Stadium not being available. Would they like to have it there? Yes, but it all comes down to money. And if Saudi Arabia offers that money, they're gonna jump on a a chance to fight in, Saudi Arabia and make hundreds of millions of dollars.
Well, let me comment on that. So one of the things you said there was it all comes back to money. And one of the things that we were talking about just before you dinged back in was there is the aspect of what's best for Deontay Wilder, for his personal development, for his health.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's this other aspect that everyone has to consider, which is the economics or the business of boxing, right? Certainly, almost any opponent other than perhaps an Anthony Joshua would be a step down in terms of business, meaning Tyson Fury and signing that rematch may put you in a position where you're making millions of dollars and more that you would make to face any other opponent. From a business standpoint, is it still the right decision to turn down a Tyson Fury rematch?
For a business standpoint, no. You don't turn it down. From a business standpoint, you take the money, you go, because the third fight will be just as big. The crowd is there. Like last night, for instance, right? I'd say 90% of the fans there were UK fans. They were Fury fans. Most of the crowd was Fury fans. And I just want to kind of touch on this topic. One thing I was talking to some of the UK fans about, and some of the media there is, one of the questions they had asked me is, why don't the American supporters, the American boxing fans, support their fighters more than just on social media? And I said, well, here's the thing, is that you have to understand that it's not that they're not necessarily supporting them. We may support Wilder just as much as the UK supports Fury, but the thing is our fan base and the demographics of the sports here in the United States is totally different than the demographics in the UK. For instance, here we pour billions of dollars into the NFL, into Major League Baseball, the NBA, even NASCAR. We pour billions of dollars into NASCAR. Where boxing, for them to build it up, it's really tough. I mean, if your name isn't Manny Pacquiao or Oscar De La Hoya, right, from like now until the year 2000, you didn't sell 1 million pay-per-views.
Yeah.
Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, De La Hoya, the only three to ever sell 1 million pay-per-views.
Yep.
So
boxing,
in boxing, it's just the demographics of the sport here in the United States, and it's not necessarily that everybody's backing UK fans or because Deontay Wilder's black and everybody wants to see this man lose. That has nothing to do with it. It's just the demographics. In the UK and in Mexico, it's a culture. It's in our Mexican culture. It's in the Latino culture to come from the dirt, to come from nothing, to become a boxer, or you play soccer out there.
That's right.
And the same with the UK, soccer or boxing. But you're going to go throw darts. But it is what it is there. Here you have soccer moms taking these kids to soccer practice. You have kids looking up to Kobe Bryant. Look at how big it was when Kobe died. Not just because he was a global superstar, but because of how big the NBA is here. So it's that's all it is. It's the demographics, and the money's there. If Joshua takes the fight, if Wilder were to take the fight, economically and business-wise, it's a smart move. He needs to take the money he made, which was a guaranteed $30 million plus a percentage of the pay-per-view, and think about his future. Maybe take another fight and retire if he can't get by him more. Then have to think again, make that same decision of what do I do, because now there's no more rematches with Fury.
So, Eddie, let me ask you this. You follow boxing. I don't know if you subscribe very much to the sort of pound-for-pound list kind of concept, but it comes up all the time, right? You look at it, pound for pound, these are the top guys. There was a point in time where last year it wouldn't be uncommon to find Anthony Joshua in people's top pound-for-pound list, maybe top 10 or something like that. Given the skill set that Tyson Fury possesses, meaning we came out and we saw a very different Tyson Fury than the first fight. He actually executed a completely different strategy, and it was really effective, which is interesting because you could make the argument that he was successful in the first fight, but he changed it anyway in order to get a more definitive result, and it worked, right? When you look at a man and he's that size, he's 6'9", he's 270 pounds or whatever it is he's weighing in at. And he possesses those kind of skills where he can adapt on the fly, make strategic adjustments, basically thinking, right? Which is not just power, but all these aspects. Does he belong on the pound-for-pound list in the way that Anthony Joshua was on the pound-for-pound list maybe at this time last year?
After the performance from yesterday?
After the performance from yesterday.
Hands down. Hands down. I mean, come on, man. Like, listen, over the years, I've started to like Deontay Wilder. I started understanding his story, his child, where he came from, his hard work, and I'm all for that. And I think, Jacob could say the same. When you grind that hard to get to where you're at, that drive is heavy. But sometimes you got to have a reality check with yourself and realize, like, for Deontay, me looking at Deontay, he's a one-trick pony, and Tyson Fury highlighted it up and down for 3 minutes each round. So to answer your question, yeah, I mean, he's 30-0 with the draw, which the draw shouldn't have been a draw anyway. You know what I mean? And he did right. He brought in his Emmanuel Stewart's nephew, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Sugar Hill changed
Stewart.
his whole entire thing. He said, I want more punching power. That's what Crunk does. And he gave him a Crunk beating. And so, yes, to answer your question, absolutely, hands down, he's pound for pound for sure. And on top of that, if they end up doing that Anthony Joshua, bro, it's not going to look good, man. Like, Andy Ruiz put Joshua down 4 times, and he's 6'2". He's 6'6". You talk about 6'9", 270 pounds versus 6'6", 240 pounds with his muscular, his body's built. Nah, man, come on, bro, stop it.
Stacks, same question for you. Did that performance to you make Tyson Fury a pound-for-pound list-type fighter if you subscribe to that pound-for-pound stuff?
Yes, and especially if I use your analogy of what a pound-for-pound means, is if you take any fighter and you put them in any weight class, how would they look against other fighters?
Yeah, so
yes,
basically assuming we're all the same weight, how would we perform in the same division?
Right.
Is kind of the idea.
Yeah, definitely. He'd probably be, if you use that analogy in my book, he'd probably be about 3 or 4 in the pound-for-pound list behind people like Loma, Canelo, and maybe the Monster Nui, and then I'd probably have a Fury up in there.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So 4 or 5 in my pound-for-pound list. That's where Fury would land, especially after his performance from last night. Because he took his skill, he took what he used the first fight, and he fine-tuned it. And like Rosario was saying, man, he got with Crunk, he got with Sugar Hill. They added the weight, they added the power, they had a game plan, and they stuck to it. They knew exactly what was gonna, to happen. They called it, and it almost went to a T. Shit, I mean, he could have knocked him out in the second round, in the third round when he was hurt. But I mean, he had predicted the second round knockout. But I mean, if he would have knocked him out in the second round, it wouldn't have surprised me the way he fought last night. That's how good he looked against Wilder. Wilder, like they said, of course, his thing is that equalizer, the right hand. But his boxing skills have shown he doesn't. I shouldn't say his skills, but the technical ring IQ, the boxing itself, he just didn't have the footwork and the boxing and the technicalities that Fury showed last night. And he'll never learn them. He's 34 years old. It's too late.
It's too late.
I think one of the things that's I have a difficult time with personally, right, is there's this narrative that's existed even throughout Deontay Wilder's winning career. So Deontay Wilder, who is a bronze medalist in the Olympics, who achieved the highest world title that you can accomplish as a professional, who has knocked out 41 other people, there's this narrative that, like, Deontay Wilder can't box. And it's because he doesn't possess kind of the skills that we traditionally look at as, quote, good boxing.
Right.
But the truth is it's not good and bad. Boxing is either effective or it's not. And I would say that what Deontay Wilder has done, the way he's done it, has been extremely effective all the way up until last night. And so one of the things that I think is disappointing is to see so many people who are kind of anti-Wilder now go, see, that guy can't box because he lost to a guy who was really strategic and initiated a great game plan, who put the pressure on him and who won. If in the 7th round, instead of Deontay Wilder going out, if he had landed that right hand and Tyson Fury, we would be having a completely different discussion for sure. Now. But at one point in time, I kind of compared it to, like, let's say my three-pointer was unconventional. I shoot it from up over my head or whatever, but I make them all, right? And I average 30 points a game. At the end of the day, you can't really say I can't shoot because my shot doesn't look like your shot. My shot is effective if it goes in. right?
Yeah.
What Deontay Wilder has done is effective. So for someone who has competed at the highest level as an amateur and as a professional and achieved a tremendous amount of success, I mean, we say the O's shouldn't matter. That's like one thing you hear as boxing fans. The zero, you know, if you lose your O, that shouldn't matter. You should be able to. But then at the same time, we absolutely crucify these like he loses and we're like, you see, he doesn't belong here.
It's a double-edged sword.
He overachieved,
Yeah.
right? He can't box. Get him out of here. We don't want to watch this guy.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand.
Here's the thing, man. I picked Fury, right? I picked Fury to win. I knew he would, I didn't know. I picked him. I thought he would outbox him. I figured he'd drop him in the middle round. Sometime he'd break him down and drop him, which had happened. But the thing is at any moment, he could land that right hand. Last night was a little bit different because he was hurt bad after that third round. So that kind of changed the rest of the fight. But anytime during any other fight, that right hand is that equalizer, and it can land at any time and turn his lights out. And it has in the past. Look at his percentage of KOs. It has worked for him.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And it could have easily worked just as easy last night. But I said he was hurt. Here's the thing. Here's the difference to me is in that first fight, I honestly believe that it was Tyson's mistakes that led him to that fight being a draw. He learned from his mistakes. It would have been different if Wilder in the first fight would have absolutely schooled him, right? Hit him, jabbed him, outboxed him, hurt him, right? And then the fight been a draw, and Fury say, I can't adjust because this is the way I fight. I fight him again. He's going to beat me because of his power. Kind of like Chocolatito and Sorrang Desai. The first fight was a draw, or actually, no, the first fight Chocolatito actually lost, and then the second one he gets knocked out. Why?
Right.
Because that style was just bad for him. Where Fury adjusted. He knew what he had to do. His style worked, and all he had to do was fine-tune it, which he did, and made a few adjustments to that game, and that's what gave him the victory. There was never a doubt in my mind that he was gonna beat him. Even actually I had watched a fight science. It's called Ring Science with Andre Ward the week before.
Oh, I saw that
and
too.
That put me over 100%. I said, okay, he's got it. I watched step by step what Wilder was doing and said he's not going to change. His style has worked and it's not going to change, and he believes that he's going to catch him with one of those wild ass rights and knock him out. And it's too late for him. It's too late for him. But as far as other big fights, there's big fights out there, and he can win for that Wilder has available to win. So. I don't know.
One thing I do want to point out, and that I really admire about Tyson Fury's dedication to the strategy that he employed in this fight, is that Deontay Wilder did land a couple right hands, one in the first round and one in the second round, that landed pretty cleanly. Tyson Fury rolled with him. He took something off those right hands.
That's right.
But I think that very easily a fighter in that position who very early on in employing that new game plan gets tagged once or twice, like in the first, really easy for that person to say, you know what, I'm going to go back to staying on my jab and getting out of range and making sure I'm in a position where I'm not going to get hit. But he didn't do that. He doubled down. He took the right hands and he went forward, right? So it's like he employed that strategy. So I have to say that I have, a tremendous amount of admiration for what Tyson Fury was able to accomplish in that fight.
Oh, hands down. Hands down.
Well, gentlemen, I have to head out. I'm actually going to be meeting with Jesse Vargas, who's going to be fighting Mikey Garcia.
Such a name
next
dropper,
Saturday.
bro. He's like,
yeah.
I have a meeting with Jesse Vargas right now. Sorry, guys.
Ask him what he does for recovery. Tell him to give me a holler.
I did talk to Ben Lira, man, and Ben Lira had a lot of good things to say about you last night, Mr. Rosario. We talked about Jojo Diaz and about his win against Kevin Farmer in Miami.
Awesome.
He was actually in the corner last night of Sebastian Pandora, the Towery.
That's right. He was. That's right.
Yeah, so he was there last night. So I talked to him, caught up with him, and I let him know that you were going to be on the show today. And Ben's been a guest of ours, so he just wanted to let you know, hey, to give you a shout out as well.
Oh man, I appreciate that. Give him that shout out right back, man. I appreciate that love and support.
All right, gentlemen. Well, sorry I can't be on the phone any longer, but I have to go. Sean, I will see you next Sunday.
See you next Sunday, brother.
All right, thanks.
All right. That was Anthony Stack Saldana reporting to us from Las Vegas, Nevada, where he apparently has a meeting with Jesse Vargas, in case you guys didn't catch that part of the conversation. That only came up 2 or 3 times. No, I'm just kidding.
He never really said bye to his son either, huh?
No, he didn't. He didn't say bye to you.
When he left the first time, he never said shit either.
I love it.
Here we are.
Pretty good, man.